Yeah, we're starting with cricket on the SportsMax Zone for this Thursday. Now, in early November, the Board of Control for Cricket in India, the BCCI, informed the game's governing body, the International Cricket Council, ICC, that it had no plans of sending players to Pakistan for the 2025 Champions Trophy upon the advice of their government. At the time, the most obvious solution was a hybrid model, which would see another country being brought into the picture solely to provide a venue for India's slate of matches in the Pakistan-hosted event. However, chair of the Pakistan Cricket Board, Mohsin Naqvi, quickly squashed the idea, refusing to entertain anything but the PCB being the lone hosts of the competition. Now, over a month later, and after several meetings involving the ICC, the two boards, and the government officials from both countries, the ICC has voted in favor of the initially proposed hybrid model. But perhaps the most important development from those negotiations is an agreement which states that neither India nor Pakistan will have to breach each other's borders to contest international tournaments for the remainder of the current cycle, which runs through to 2027. Now, the agreement, which begins with next year's Men's Champions Trophy, will also apply to the 2025 Women's ODI World Cup in India, the 2026 Men's T20 World Cup, which will be co-hosted by India and Sri Lanka, and possibly the 2028 Women's T20 World Cup to be held in Pakistan. Quite a mouthful there. Cricket commentator Fazir Mohammed now joins us via Zoom to break down what all of this means for the international game and for these global tournaments. Faz, welcome again to the SportsMax Zone. Well, it must be Christmas because you've been giving a lot of your time to us this week. This latest situation between Pakistan and India and the International Cricket Council going to a hybrid model for the current cycle, I guess in a way we saw it coming. What do you make of it all, Faz?
Yeah, well, I have the beard for the season, if nothing else. So let's go with that, shall we? But it's sad to see it come to this, Ricardo, because if you listen to the players of both sides, they really have no issue with each other. This is really ideological and religious and political because the BJP rules in India. In Pakistan, it's very polarized as well. You don't want to see to be backing down to India because, again, Pakistan came into being after partition, 1947, independence and so on for what was then Greater India. And all of the issues associated with it. So obviously it's more than just cricket. To just draw from the great C.L.R. James, what do they know of cricket who only cricket know? But to bring it back to the present situation, it's sad to see it coming to this because obviously money talks and ideals walk. So therefore the PCB head could make that bold pronouncement a month ago, as you said, Ricardo, but then when the economic realities are brought home to you that, look, this is going to actually hit you in the pocket where it hurts the most. It's going to jeopardize you playing in any global tournaments. It's going to jeopardize so many other things. You find a way to compromise. And this is where we are now, where basically the horse trading has resulted in, yes, India not going to Pakistan, but then Pakistan not going to India either. And at the end of the day, I think the game of cricket is the biggest loser, even though both sides of the fence will be filling their pockets and their bank balances with the revenue from these global tournaments.
Yeah, let's talk about the game of cricket and how it loses, because I can just imagine that it will have a significant impact, especially when it comes on to global tournaments, and especially the global tournaments that have a significant number of teams.
Yes, and this is the thing. I mean, and let's again contextualize it. I mean, it's not just India, Pakistan with the hypocrisy and all of these issues. I mean, Australia have been happy to be the hypocrites of not playing Afghanistan in bilaterals, but playing them in ICC tournaments, and they say they are comfortable with that. Essentially, they are comfortable being hypocrites because it suits them. Now, back to the India-Pakistan situation. Of course, it damages the integrity of the tournament. Can we really think of any global sporting event where one nation opts not to go to a host nation for whatever reason, and accommodations are made? The one exception I can draw reference to is Israel in global sport, and especially football. They play in Europe. They don't play in Asia. They don't play in Asia, Oceania, because the nations around them are ideologically and otherwise opposed to Israel. So they play in Europe. That's a compromise. But when we're talking about cricket, and you have a situation where tournaments are being played, and because of who is playing against whom or where, it actually means that you're not going, and that's fine, or you're going somewhere else, and that's fine. It sort of makes a mockery of what you would like to consider to be an ideal global sporting tournament.
Yeah, first, when I look at this situation, I can easily see how other teams will be impacted by this as well. Just for the simple reason that, let's say, let's look at the Champions Trophy next year, and that will have only 8 teams, so it might not be the worst of the possible situations. But let us say that teams have to play India in the UAE. I can already see logistical issues, travel being one of the major ones. The Asia Cup was, I think, a perfect example where teams had to play in another country and then travel back to Pakistan. And we're looking at a similar situation here where teams are going to be forced to be doing a lot of travel in a very short space of time, and it could ultimately impact the quality of cricket they play.
I hear that point, although I can hear those things from the logistical point of view. Come on, Ricardo. A flight from Karachi to Dubai actually is shorter than a flight from Karachi to Lahore, for example. But I understand the point that you're making.
But that's the best case scenario.
It is. And indeed, I'm sure they would have already factored in that the UAE is the best option for many different logistical reasons. Even the IPL has been staged in the UAE because of elections, because of COVID, for many different reasons. But it's the integrity of the tournament. And I know for many people, the realists will say, look, you and your integrity could take a flying leap because that really doesn't make a difference. But at the end of the day, aren't we acknowledging that compromise after compromise is being made purely on the altar of financial expediency? And while many will say, well, what is so wrong with that? Then you can take it to the other degree. What is so wrong with leaving Zimbabwe, Ireland, and Afghanistan impoverished? Because they don't count. They're not even in the ICC Test Championship. They're of no relevance, even though we pretend to call them full members of the ICC, and therefore they will always be struggling. And this is the issue, Ricardo, that yes, with excellent travel arrangements and logistics and all the big money companies behind it, it's going to run almost seamlessly. But at the end of the day, what continues to happen, especially in this so-called international game of cricket, is that you have the haves who dictate everything and the have-nots who are happy to take all of that sort of treatment because they just want to hang out with the begging bowl to get a few favors. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah, and I hear the point completely, Faz, and I don't disagree because the truth is it may well run smoothly come the Champions Trophy. Of course, part of the issue we face, and this has been a major problem with the International Cricket Council, is that we are in December. The Champions Trophy is, what, February and March, and we still don't know the venues that matches will be played and so on. So that in itself is an issue. And I know you spoke about the travel distance between the UAE and Lahore, for example, but think about when the tournaments will be in Pakistan and Sri Lanka, and if a team, let's say, is stationed in Pakistan, but they have to go to Sri Lanka just because that's where they're going to play India and be back in Pakistan. And again, I hear you, Faz, they may well work it out and it may well all seem seamless, but I suspect that many teams will have issues. And once again, a lot of questions will be raised of the ICC, but ultimately, I guess it's most of it, at least, is a financial decision.
I think all of it is a financial decision. And I understand you fully. I mean, we had a full football World Cup in a tiny nation of Qatar in 2022. The next time around is going to be in the USA, Mexico, and Canada, which is a huge distance. In 2030, they're going to play it in 3 nations, but then because of the centenary, going to play it in 3 South American nations as well to mark that centenary. So yes, the logistics thing is being made not that much of an issue now because of the realities of global travel, and sports persons, men and women, are expected to be accustomed to these challenges. But I just think that it is a situation where in the game of cricket has always been about compromise. The history of the game is compromise left, right, and center so that those who are in power can have what they want. And this is just another example. And I think the game is the loser as far as sending that message that, look, this is a place where there's a so-called level playing field where everyone at the table, a so-called full member, has a fighting chance to make their point and then being heard and get some sort of traction with that. And we know the reality is we're a long, long way from that.
Yeah, Fazan, I want to go back to something that you had mentioned earlier on a couple of minutes ago when you were making your first comment. Because while both parties recognize that this may be the best solution, given all that surrounds the issue, it is still sad. And some of your comments sounded a short while ago pretty much like some comments I heard from Wasim Akram, who was suggesting that it may be the best solution here, but he's saddened by the fact that Pakistan, young Pakistanis, won't be able to see some of the greatest players in the world like Virat Kohli and Jasprit Bumrah and Rohit Sharma. And it just points to me that sport is sometimes, as an integrator, bigger than politics, because here are these 2 countries rivaling, but the stars from these individual countries have so much respect and are willing to embrace the rivals from the other countries. Absolutely,
and that is the tragedy of it, yes. in that sense. Like, I mean, I am from the era of radio. And I grew up, battling with the shortwave to find all India radio, to listen to India, Pakistan, listening to Sunil Gavaskar in 78, 79, scoring a couple of hundreds in Pakistan, and then Pakistan coming to India and famously winning a series with Imran Khan in 1987. And I think this is the essence of it. Can you imagine, if you want to again draw a football context, where Brazil are not going to play Germany because of some ideological squabble? They're never going to play each other again or visit their respective countries. The game is the loser. I think that we are in an era now where it's 100% support from the home team. But in the era when we grew up, Lance and Ricardo, you respect it.
Are you sure you don't want to revisit that, that Ricardo comment, Faz?
I was trying to be generous to the young man,
I did not feel your generosity, Faz. Like, can you please retract and restart and then complete your point?
Yeah, Faz, you know what? Faz, I connected just now with you about the shortwave radio and so on. I remember listening to Ali Fraser and Ali Norton on shortwave because I was a boxing fan from those years, but Ricardo wasn't even close to being born then.
Well, clearly, so statement retracted. Let's move on. But yes, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, what better way for integration and understanding? And yes, we have our differences religious-wise, but we don't have to hate each other to that extent. But that's where the politics comes in. And I mean, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, where the issues of race are always paramount. So I know about these things. So it serves political ends to fuel these things. And that's why it's so sad that young Pakistanis, young Indians will not be able to see the best of the players just across the border, taking them on outside of an international competition. And now, of course, not even in an international competition because of this desire to compromise to meet financial and obviously political and ideological needs.
Yeah, and you know what, just to, expand on the point a bit, apart from the comments that Wasim Akram made, I saw some comments from Mohammed Amir as well, who said that he actually wanted to host Virat Kohli at his home. and he now won't have the opportunity to do that.
And you know, the thing is, Lance, you know, if you listen to the common narrative, you think that, you know, these people are at loggerheads all the time. They're always at war. And we know about the issue with the Himalayas and all of the situations with that, with the Kashmir and the disputed region. We know that. We can't paper over it. But if you look at India, you've got Muhammad Shami, Muhammad Siraj, you've got many, Zahir Khan, so many others. Who Irfan Pathan and his brother. There's a trophy in India called the Saeed Mushtaq Ali Trophy that is played for in domestic cricket. Mansur Ali Khan Patowadi was one of the outstanding Indian captains. So even in India itself, there's a litany of examples. Muhammad Azharuddin, never mind, he disgraced himself with the match fixing. That players of the Muslim faith have been fully part of the landscape and indeed accepted. But again, sadly, because of the politics, because of the religious things that are tied into the politics, this is allowed to happen.
Yeah, Faz, do you think we will ever get to the stage, or well, at least the International Cricket Council will ever get to the stage where it says essentially, listen, given the geopolitical tensions, and not just with India and Pakistan, but if it were to happen elsewhere as well, we're not going to award hosting rights to these nations, because then we're going to have to deal with issues like this? Or is it just going to always come down to the money? There's money in India, and for however we get it done, we have to have them playing in our tournaments.
Well, you just answered the question yourself. They'll do that to the West Indies, Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe, any of the PWATs of global cricket. They'll do that to everyone else, but certainly not to India. Because again, if India were to not be allowed to participate in the tournament itself would probably lose 75% of its revenue. And that's what really talks.
That's what really talks indeed. Well, fans, thanks so much for joining us again on the SportsMax Zone, and we'll be chatting soon.
Take care.
Take care. Yeah, really sad situation. Let's take a break on the SportsMax Zone. After, Lance will be at the track.